Columns is a puzzle game developed by Sega, originally released in 1990 for several platforms, including the Game Gear, an 8-bit portable console. The game belongs to the Match 3 genre, similar to titles like Tetris, but with distinct mechanics and an aesthetic inspired by ancient Greece. In Columns, the player must line up colored gems falling from the top of the screen in vertical columns of 3. The objective is to create combinations of 3 or more gems of the same color horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. Unlike Tetris, where the pieces have different shapes, in Columns the gems are always aligned vertically, and the only manipulation allowed is to change the order of the colors within the column, rotating them cyclically. The game continues until the screen is completely filled with gems, and the player loses the game. Columns on Game Gear stands out for its colorful and sharp graphics, making the most of the capabilities of the console's color LCD screen, which unlike the Game Boy, offered greater color depth. The gems are well defined and easily distinguishable, which makes the game visually pleasing and functional even on a small screen. The game has an interesting audio section, with classical-style music that recalls Greek antiquity. Although the Game Gear's sound chip was limited, the melodies were pleasant and unobtrusive, helping to maintain the game's relaxed pace. The game mechanics are extremely simple to learn, but offer considerable strategic depth. Planning your moves in advance, trying to predict future combinations, adds an interesting level of challenge, especially in the later stages, when the speed of the falling gems increases. The game offers several modes, including Classic Mode and Flash Mode. The latter challenges the player to eliminate a specific gem located at the bottom of the screen, providing an interesting variation on the standard gameplay. Its nature as an arcade game, combined with the simplicity of the rules, guarantees good replayability, making it a title suitable for short and frequent sessions. One of the main flaws is related to the hardware limitations of the Game Gear. Despite the color screen, the limited resolution and small screen size can make it difficult to distinguish gems in particularly chaotic situations, especially for less experienced players or in low light conditions. The Game Gear's notoriously short battery life can also detract from the mobile gaming experience, making it difficult to play extended games without having to rely on an external power supply. Compared to more fast-paced titles like Tetris, Columns is often considered slower and less immediate. This slower pace may be less engaging for some players, especially in the early stages, where the speed of falling gems is particularly slow. Even though the game introduces several modes, the lack of innovation in the core mechanics can make the gameplay feel repetitive in the long run. After a certain number of games, the strategies that can be adopted become quite predictable, and the learning curve quickly flattens out.
Columns on Game Gear is like a jewel set in ancient Greece, inviting you to dive into a sea of glittering gems with a slow but hypnotic pace. Imagine being an ancient merchant trying to sort his precious treasures. Each falling gem represents a choice, an opportunity to fit color with color, in an almost Zen geometric dance. Each combination that disappears from the screen is like a blow of a chisel that perfects a marble sculpture, a step towards visual and sound harmony. Your mission? Create order in chaos, using only your cunning and the ability to make the fate of the gems rotate under your fingers. The game doesn't ask you for lightning-fast reflexes, but rather a strategic mind, like a chess player who predicts future moves calmly and precisely. The merits. The magic of Columns lies in its simplicity. It doesn't need complex shapes or intricate mechanics. The colorful gems fall into perfect columns, which reduces the stress of space management, leaving more room for contemplation and planning. And then there is the music, which accompanies you like a gentle wind blowing through the ruins of an ancient temple, creating a relaxing and vaguely mystical atmosphere. The Game Gear's color screen brings gems to life with a brilliance that few handheld games of the time could boast. Each gem is like a little prism, reflecting light and keeping the viewing experience lively and enjoyable, even if you're traveling on a train or bus. It's the perfect travel companion for short, meditative sessions. However, Columns has a quiet soul, perhaps too much so for some players. If Tetris is an accelerated heartbeat, Columns is the slow, steady pulse of a summer night under the stars. His lack of speed in the early stages can give the impression of a slow start, like a horse trotting slowly before taking off in a race. For those looking for fast-paced action, Columns' pace might feel more like a contemplative walk in a Zen garden rather than an obstacle course. And then, there is the technical challenge of the Game Gear itself. The small and not always very clear screen makes it difficult to distinguish the gems when the action gets frenetic. And the battery? Well, if you're in the middle of a game and feel the Game Gear dying, it's as if the sudden sunset obscures your path. Columns is for those who want a less frenetic and more cerebral challenge, a puzzle game that requires calm, precision, and a long-term vision. It's like putting together an ancient mosaic, where each piece must be placed with patience and attention. It's not a race against time, but a challenge to your ability to create order in chaos, step by step, gem by gem. Despite its flaws, Columns shines for what it is, a treasure of tranquility, a colorful little gem that asks you to slow down, breathe, and enjoy the ride.
Columns for Game Gear is a game that made the most of the capabilities of the Sega handheld console, offering a relaxing and visually pleasing puzzle game experience. However, its slower pace and some of the Game Gear's hardware limitations may reduce the appeal for some players, especially when compared to more dynamic puzzle titles of the era. However, it remains a classic of the genre and a symbolic title for Game Gear owners.